Honkai Star Rail. It's like Genshin but in space, and you got space trains. The entire internet is going crazy about this game. I can't even open my phone without Honkai invading my personal space. I can't even close my eyes anymore without Honkai being there.
Wait!
The weird part is, I didn't think I'd actually enjoy this game as much as I did. However, for a lot of the reasons I enjoy this game, I kind of fear it might potentially be the downfall of the game itself. It may not make sense now, but just hold on to that as I get into the video. So, Honkai Star Rail has been teased for a really long time, and it's kind of some sort of spiritual successor to Genshin. If like they took all these guys and just threw them into space and now you're going on a space train or something. It's really weird, but it's also really cool at the same time. And also, like, that train has a gun barrel on it. Are we all just gonna ignore that? I would not really call it a spiritual successor or anything like that, because it's entirely different than Genshin, except it looks pretty much the same, but not really. It looks like when you're trying to cheat on your homework, so you get your friend and you take his answers and you change him just enough so no one notices, but everyone can kind of tell what you did because you're a dumbass. All of these things are the same. Instead of wishes, you got warps, and instead of whatever resin, you got whatever else. I don't even bother to learn what they are at this point because they all do the same thing. Let's get straight to the game. When you load up the game, you're playing as this purple-haired lady who is pretty cool. She just goes around shooting things. You're like, hey, is this the good guy? Am I the bad guy? Who am I? Why am I a woman? And then you realize, oh wait, that's not you. You've just been born. Don't you love it when you load up a whole new game and it's like a whole new fantasy world in space and they keep throwing this jargon at you? What the flip is a stellar gun? What on earth is an Eon? Why are we going into space? What the hell is an Astral Express? I don't even know. The engine they use clearly is very similar to Genshin, or is the exact same one, but I actually feel this looks significantly better than Genshin because I feel like they actually know what they're doing this time and they really made the characters really good. Maybe a bit over-designed, but hey, I'm not complaining. It looks pretty sweet. I feel like they just done everything really well this time because Genshin looks like they got Breath of the Wild and they're yoinked the design and like, yeah, this is good enough. We'll use this. With this game, they really went into their own, and they really designed these characters in such a way that they feel quite unique. When you look at them side by side with Genshin's characters, Genshin characters do look a bit flat. Here's one of the reasons I absolutely love this game. It is the turn-based combat, and I'm so surprised they went with this approach because who even plays a turn-based game nowadays? But as a kid, these games were my drugs. Anything turn-based, I would play that. From mainstream games like Pokemon to less popular games like Final Fantasy. I mean, no one in my school played Final Fantasy. I'm just so glad I can play a modern game that brings me back to those times. That's what I love about the game the most. But then at the same time, it kinda can be a bit of a negative, and I'll get onto that in a bit. But linking back to this point is the fact that this game is an open world, and I really like that. Because every single game nowadays tries to be open world for no reason. You don't need to have a massive open world where absolutely nothing happens. I prefer the change of pace where, you know, you go down a corridor, you fight the enemies, they design it to look real pretty for you, and you move on to the next corridor. Final Fantasy 15, a game I really like, which did get a lot of hate, which I feel it wasn't really deserved. They called it a corridor simulator, which it is true. Dang, those were some pretty corridors, I gotta be honest with you. I mean, just look at it. It's so beautiful. Everything was so sleek and pretty, especially for those days, and I still think the game looks good. Because let's be honest, in Genshin, we just run around, do commissions, whack a whole bunch of random enemies, and move on with our day. We don't really benefit from having an open world. But yep, I just remembered something. There's no jump button. We are not able to jump in Honkai. I don't even know what to say about that. Which game? It's like, okay, so we go forward. No, we don't even go forward in this game. If you think about it, we only go backwards. But to be fair, I prefer the older style of games. And you know what? We don't need a jump button. I'm kidding. A jump button would be really good. Please put that back in, miHoYo. Because what were you guys thinking? They took away the glider and the jumping functionality. The glider I don't miss too much, but for real, come on. We need to jump. It makes walking from A to B so painful. In every single video game you ever play, you just bunny hop around like a psycho. Another really cool feature that I like in this game is the fact that the characters use mobile phones. I don't know why, but it's such a rare thing to see in video games when the character just goes on their phones. And these idle animations are hilarious. Like, I don't know what he's playing, but I'm assuming he's playing Genshin. The presentation in this game definitely is one of his strong suits. Like, for example, some of the subtle things that you may not think about really put this game apart from everything else. Like when you select the character to apply an effect to, like the way this shows you all of the characters which you can use it on is really innovative. Usually you get some boring menu or some usual looking select screen, but the way they subtly animate everything just makes it stand apart from all other games. Anyone that's played Genshin, you know you're missing something, and that is there's no Paimon. There's no annoying side character bugging you every 5 minutes, which is pretty weird. Instead, you got this lady called March 7th. Why on earth is your name March 7th? That's like calling me the 26th of May. It's just pretty weird. Don't do that. And also, what the hell is a light cone? I'm just imagining like a cone of chips or something. I don't know. Who on earth gave it this name, light cone? Like seriously, game light cone? None of the characters have weapons. Like that'd be a really cool thing to see. But no, we got portraits. So it's not even a light cone. It's not even a cone. It's a self-portrait of whatever the flip that is. Why would you get rid of the jump button and now weapons? So what? I don't know. Some of these decisions are really weird, if I'm going to be honest with you. Another really wacky thing in this game is that the main character uses a bat. In traditional RPGs and video games, you know, the main character gets some really badass weapons. Like he either gets some really badass powers or some really cool weapons. You know, it's either like a massive sword or some really cool gunblade or something. They really go crazy with these the weapons that give the main character. Like, how do they even hold some of this stuff? But don't worry about it, they fixed that in Honkai because they give him a baseball bat. He's gonna save the world with a baseball bat. Now, I kinda love it, it's actually hilarious. And on top of that, you thought baseball bat was good enough? No, they got pizza cutter lady as well. How did they even come up with this stuff? They're not even trying at this point, but I absolutely love it. Also, the main character loves trash cans. I can't even make this up. That's why I love this game. It has so much personality in it. You know, Genshin can feel a bit bland. I don't want to bash on Genshin, but when you play Honkai, it just feels so full of life. And also the ultimate animations do look really cool. Like you could tell they put a lot of effort in these animations and these moves. And on the point of ultimates, you can stack them, which is a really cool feature. So you could just stack all your ultimates in one turn and just go ham, just go crazy. You could just see all your characters' ultimates. It's so beautiful. And also, you could just pause the game. So, you know, if you're about to die, some boss is about to stomp on you, you just pretend you're gonna do your ultimate, even if, you know, you can't. Another interesting fact about this game is that enemies don't really have elements like you do in Genshin, where you got like the fire mage. Instead, they just have weaknesses, which is like, you know, reverse. Instead of you have a fire type in Pokemon, now you have my weakness is fire. And the fact that you could see all of the enemies like information mid-battle is such a cool feature. Not that we need it, but I'm so glad that it's there. It's some of these subtle things that make the game feel so good. Like usually in classic RPGs, you actually have to spend resources to get like, I know in the Tales series they call them magic lenses, and I would pause the game and collect all the enemy information and just stare at it for a good 30 seconds before getting back to get my butt handed to me in the game. But it's so nice finding a new enemy and just reading about it and seeing what they have and just appreciating the work that the developers put in. It's just really cool to see that. But then you get an unlocked fast forward and auto battle, and then all of that goes out the window because you really don't have to do anything. And when you get into the habit of using fast forward and auto battle, you just speedrun it. And I just fight with myself not to skip all the battles because I actually want to enjoy the characters I've built and not just make it one of those like a cookie clicker simulation game where you just kind of spam the same thing and let the game do its thing. While we were talking about ultimates, I know I said they're really cool, but you know what's not as cool? The fact that I've heard the same voice lines at least 100 times in about 2 hours of gameplay. You get your ultimates a lot, and you would expect they would have thought that maybe people want to hear more than one voice line. And sometimes when the character says an entire paragraph like the pizza cutter lady,
humanity never conceals its desire to control the heavens, and I'm no exception.
Like how many times are you gonna say the same thing? Do you not get tired of that? Was it really so hard to like record maybe 2 or 3 additional more lines to make it more interesting? And also the fact that you get it so much that it's basically just a stronger third move that your character gets. And the point of moves is that the characters really only have 2. Your normal attack and then your skill or your elemental, whatever you want to call it. And I appreciate they're trying to stick it quite close to Genshin with, you know, the 3 move system. Your normal, you know, your elemental move and then your burst or whatever you call them. I don't really know this stuff. When I play Genshin, I just press buttons. It's great, the combat's great, but it's very lackluster. It's hard for me to admit this, but when you have a strategy game, one of the most amazing parts is that you have so many options to do where you can come up with your own strategy. You can use so many different moves, you can train your characters differently to get the most out of them. But when your moves are hit this guy or hit 3 guys, there's not really much thinking that has to go on. March 7th, you can either hit the enemy or you can shield yourself. And it's cool for the first half an hour, and then you realize that, damn, there's really not much I could do. It's like the illusion of choice. What's the point of choosing something when there's really nothing you can choose? And this is one of the downsides of the game, because is it really even a strategy turn-based game? It's basically more like I call it a resource management or something. Like, you just gotta make sure your characters are strong enough to do the fight, because you don't have that much control. I really do hope that they advance more on the turn-based combat. I know they will, because when Genshin started out, it didn't have nearly as much features as they do now. So this is one of the areas that Honkai really needs to develop a lot more on, because it's counterintuitive making a turn-based strategy game and then taking away a lot of the choice that the players have. It takes away a lot of the challenge and the depth that is really required for a game like this. But with games like Genshin, where you get so many new characters and they change the game, I can't be too excited about getting new characters when really they don't really impact the game all too much, and there's no real need for them, because it's pretty much press auto battle and fast forward and you'll never really see the difference. This is not really the full game, so I don't really care too much. It's like a second beta, that's how I see it. Just like Genshin, this game's gonna last for a few years, and I really hope it does. It just baffles me. Why did they go through make this entire beautiful game, make this entire storyline, and the developers were like, hey, how about we give the players 2 options, and that's it. It's like playing chess, but all of your pieces are only pawns. Oh wait, that says checkers. I mean, look at some of the classic games like Final Fantasy 3. I absolutely love that game. Look how many moves your characters had, even back then. God knows when that game was made. Just compare it to that. The characters had so much potential. It was amazing to play, trying out new things every single time. With Honkai, there's none of that. But it looks pretty, so you can't really complain.